Welcome in A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday night. Hope you're doing okay. Question mark wellness check. How's everybody? How we doing out there? Titans are 1-4. Vibes are bad. We're going to talk about it tonight because I've been at Nissan Stadium all day. Obviously, watch this 20-17 loss to the Titans at the hands of Joe Flacco's Indianapolis Colts. That was a surprise wrinkle in all of this, which did not ultimately end up dooming the Titans. It was their own inability to perform as an NFL offense at all. Calvin Ridley expressing frustration in the locker room. Brian Callahan expressing frustration. Will Levis expressing frustration, which I'm sure mirrors exactly what Titans fans are feeling tonight, which is, hey, what the hell? And so we're going to work our way through all of those things throughout the course of the next, 25 to 30 minutes. Sunday Night Football has just started between the Bengals, another 1-4 team, and the New York Giants. So we'll see if the Bengals can manage to string together a second win, unlike Tennessee. There's a lot of issues, and we're going to work our way through a couple of these things tonight because I think I do have some solutions here. Whether or not you are going to accept my solutions is something that we're going to have to work through together. We'll talk about the growing pains. We'll talk about how we're going to have to adapt our expectations, whether you had greater expectations for the Titans this season or whether they are meeting your expectations, because some of you, I think, were pretty level-headed about all of the different things that went on this offseason, even if the feel-good at the time with all the different transactions, all the newness, and everything was pretty easy to get swept up in. All right, now that we're 5 games in, now that we've seen a sufficient enough sample size, and I do think that we've seen a sufficient enough sample size to make legitimate determinations about this team. They may change their fortunes at some point down the road. That seems unlikely, given that their next 2 opponents are on the road, and they are at Buffalo and at Detroit. And I don't know how many of you watched what just happened to the Dallas Cowboys today, but Detroit and the Bills are no slouches, and you are going this. Honestly, the Colts were the first legitimate competition I feel like the Titans have faced at any point this season. So we're going to work our way through these things. This is going to be your opportunity for therapy, and if we don't get through all of the different things that you want to complain about or vent about or discuss tonight, I got 3 hours on the radio to do it tomorrow. And probably tomorrow's going to be our last big Titans radio show for, the foreseeable future. And unless they do something improbable, unless they make a quarterback change, unless somebody gets fired, which is very much on the table if things continue to trend in this direction. But there's too many other things locally in the local sports scene for at least the radio show. Primetime is Titans, 615 Sessions is Titans. So don't worry, I'm not going to completely ignore the football team that I'm paid to cover, but for the radio show, the Vols are more relevant. Hell, the Vandy's more relevant. And I don't know how much more time I can spend, at least on the radio show, with this team in particular. But that's what Primetime's for. We're going to get our designated Titans talk in. Halo says Buck was right about 6-11. I said 7-10. 6 would have gone under your projected win total. Your projected win total by most places was 6.5. So if you go under, I know a lot of you were taking that as a personal slight against your favorite football team. And man, there's nothing wrong with looking at that and being like, no, but there's things that make sense here as to why this team should be better. I don't think you were necessarily wrong, but this thing is bad. This thing is falling apart before it's really even gotten off the ground. And whether that's due to poor construction, poor coaching, poor personnel, all these different things is what we have the opportunity to work through together. Halo says the refs were horrible. The refs weren't that bad. I mean, the missed pass interference on DeAndre Hopkins was bad. But other than that, I didn't have a problem with most of the officiating in the game. And Titans fans had plenty of calls that they want to bitch about. It's not really relevant to me. You have more issues under yourself than the refs, and if you want to blame today's game on just that pass interference, or blame the ref performance on just that pass interference, well, then you're entitled to do so. But I think that's ignoring the larger issues at hand and the more uncomfortable conversations to talk about, which is, did they make the right decision? And hiring this particular coaching staff, or did they make the right decision in letting Rand Carthon put together this roster? Because both of those things right now are looking pretty shaky, and I think it is an appropriate time to overreact. So we're going to do that tonight here on the Primetime program. Before we get started, I need you guys to share this program around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you're spending your time with us. Know that if you're here, there is another miserable Titans fan out there. And the best way to make a miserable Titans fan feel like they have somebody that they can lean on, that they have a support system. You know what this is going to be? This is going to be a Titans fan support group here in the next couple of weeks, which is hilarious given that I'm going to be the one orchestrating this thing. But I mean, I'm stuck with them. You're stuck with them. So we'll work our way through these things together, media and fan alike. So if you know a miserable Titans fan who's not in the chat, go and share this show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You know how it gets done. Once you've done that, we'll go ahead and start this thing tonight, and we'll talk about the latest loss for these 1-4 Tennessee Titans. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studio, wrong shoulder. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the aforementioned Zen Sports. Bet on all your favorite major sports, football, baseball. Basketball is about to be back. Promo code ATOZTN in the comment section, or rather in the Zen Sports app, and get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Of course, you know that you have Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. They'll never let you down, unlike your sports teams. Two Rivers Ford is the best team out there for over 4 decades here in Middle Tennessee. And TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch, the best fitness team, is TrueMathFitness.com. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Go to TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch today for that first workout free. Titans fall 20-17. A lot of different things that happened today. From the time we started the pregame radio show to the time that this game kicked off, a lot of things changed before the game even kicked off that you weren't expecting this week. One, Leroy Watson started at right tackle. So in whether it was over the course of the bye that they were making these determinations, whether they actually let these guys split reps in practice, or that was just something that they were saying, holy shit, Joe Burrow's taken off for, oh my God, was that like a 70-yard touchdown on 3rd and 18? Joe Burrow with some wheels. The 1-4 Bengals not going quietly into that dark night where the Titans are currently sitting also at 1-4. That's 6 for Cincinnati. Are they at home? No, they're on the road against the Giants. Either way, we're not here to talk about Joe Burrow, though Brian Callahan is probably wishing that he would have stayed in Cincinnati at this point, given how much of an uphill battle this thing seems to be. And with everything that's going on right now with the Tennessee Titans losing to Joe Flacco today, who was announced basically at kickoff was going to be the starting quarterback. National media got it wrong. Jordan Schultz on Michael Pittman was fed information that seemed misleading. Adam Schefter as well, Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, all said that Michael Pittman was unlikely to play for the next couple of weeks. Michael Pittman played today and mossed L'Jarius Sneed for a touchdown that will help, or that did help, the game-winning touchdown from Joe Flacco to Michael Pittman. They also had Anthony Richardson starting today, or at least trending towards starting, and then all of a sudden AR wasn't even active. And Joe Flacco ended up making the start, which, of course, was to the detriment of the Titans. Flacco was the tougher of the two quarterbacks to face today, and he made you pay. So there's a lot of different things that happened in this game before the game even kicked off. And the events pregame were more entertaining than the events during the game, because during the game was nothing but offensive constipation. It was a slog for this team. Will Levis finishes this game. I mean, it's incredible. Will Levis finishes this game 16 of 27, 95 yards, less than 100 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a rating of 63. Calvin Ridley finishes this game, targeted 8 times. Can anybody in the class out there raise your hands digitally? Of course, I can't see you, but just humor me for this purpose. Can anybody in the class out there tell me how many catches Calvin Ridley had on his 8 targets, which would be a season high for just about any Titans skill position player? Can anybody in the class tell me out there? Yes, Craig Baxter, correct. 0.0 Mr. Blutarski. Calvin Ridley was targeted 8 damn times and didn't have a catch. And he had words on that in the locker room afterwards. We'll get to Calvin Ridley here in just a second. The defense was fine. It was good enough. They got pressure. They were pretty good about not allowing explosive plays, but the offense, again, petered out at 17 points. And again, when you can't score, when you can't move the ball, when you can't look like a professional NFL offense, just 20. Just get to damn 20. And I know that's been my refrain. And they scored 31 against the Dolphins. All our offensive problems are fixed. No, you did it against a high school offense that also couldn't score and was missing Tyreek Hill wide open down the field. Calvin Ridley was just a non-factor, even though they tried to get him to factor in. And they probably tried too late to get him factored in. L'Jarius Sneed was a non-factor. He had his worst game as a Titan. This was a difficult performance down the stretch. But again, everything magnified when you can't score. And of course, coaching is not immune from this criticism either. Brian Callahan with the ball with a 4th and 7 situation down late in the fourth quarter of that game, punted the ball back to Indianapolis when it was clearly a go-for-it situation, given the fact that they were down 3. And even if the Colts would have taken the ball and scored, they still would have needed a touchdown to win the game. So with what, let's see, I've got them at 42 seconds it takes them to punt this football away, 42 seconds is the time remaining. Actually, that's not correct. I'm looking at this possession chart, and that doesn't seem to be the place where they punted. Was that from their own 6? Yes. Okay, so 1:31 remaining in the game. They punt the football back to the Colts. The Colts then, the Titans defense then, because they had to burn the timeout with the challenge that Brian Callahan lost, which was a silly challenge, and I don't think we asked him after the game about that challenge because the 4th and 7 situation, 1:31 remaining, they punt the ball back to the Colts. It's clearly a 4-down situation. They cost themselves a 5% chance of winning the game, according to ESPN analytics, by punting in that situation instead of going for it. And I understand it's 4th and 7, and Brian Callahan's post-game press conference was the first question that I asked him. It's the first question that was asked in the press conference, and it didn't sound like he gave any consideration to going for it at all. You got to know that you got to go for it in that spot when you got to keep your foot on the gas. And again, this was conservative. This was scared. Scared feels like the wrong word, but they were coaching to not lose the game. They were coaching conservative, whether you call it scared or not. I'll leave that to your determination. But here's why now 5 games in, week 6, and having 6 weeks of NFL football, 5 games for the Titans because they've already had their bye. Here's why it's time to actually panic. Well, in fact, I'm going to tell you why it's time to actually panic here in just a second. But the question I'm going to ask you, your 2 Rivers 4 take, is who do you blame the most on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section? It's your 2 Rivers 4 take. It's always presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, 2 Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at 2riversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service is what they offer. Go to 2 Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at 2 Rivers Ford, like I mentioned, 2riversford.com. So, who do you blame the most for the Titans' 20-17 loss to the Indianapolis Colts? 0-1 in the division. They won't get an opportunity to take a crack at another AFC South opponent until week 12. It is only week 6, and it is a long stretch of quality opponents between this week and that week 12 game, when you will see your next AFC South competition. This is an incredible opportunity at home that they squandered. Who do you blame the most? You blame the general manager, who spent the second most money in the offseason to put this team together. And today this team, again, collectively fell flat on its face, with the fluke being a Miami team that didn't have its starting quarterback, didn't have its backup quarterback, was down to a high school offense essentially. And that's what it took for you to get a win in a football game so far this season. Otherwise, if Tua was in that game, there is a good chance that this team is 0-5 and the worst team in professional football. But they played who they played. They managed the situations that they were able to manage. And today, again, they were not able to manage situations. So, football team, do you blame the person who put it together? Do you blame the coaching staff, who seems not to fully understand how to best use their weapons? specifically Calvin Ridley, who we'll get to here in just a second, who are trying to do a variety of different things, but it all seems just so hard on the coaching staff, on the quarterback situationally. I think they're less. Whatever you made of Mike Vrabel, and again, we don't need to relitigate the hiring, the firing, whatever. I mean, though we probably do need at some point to relitigate the hiring, given the lack of situational football awareness that seems to be shown in a couple of critical spots. I'm not saying that Vrabel and Stretch, his man, his right-hand man who helped him in all of these different situations, who the Rams hired, by the way, to do the exact same thing and do it at a higher level. This coaching staff does not seem as adept, at least in offensive situations, and Brian Callahan as both play caller and head coach. They seem less than the staff that was here 2 years ago. They are struggling more. Will Levis looks worse. And I don't know who to blame that for, whether it's the offensive line, him and his own mental stuff, the rewiring of his brain, or Brian Callahan, because they are the ones responsible for rewiring his brain. There are so many different problems with this football team that I don't know who to point blame in direction most. All that I can say is that I don't have enough arms, enough hands, enough pointer fingers to point in the direction of everybody who should assume blame for this particular loss and this particular football team. Because here's the news breaking, or the breaking news situation. This football team sucks. They're dreadful. And I think that there's a difference between, and I know it's only 1 week, okay? I know it's only 1 week between last week where I'm saying, all right, just hold your horses. Thought they were going to be 1-3 at the start of the season. They went 1-3, even though it didn't look necessarily like I thought it might look. It looked less than for them to get 1-3. Okay, my expectations were 1-3 in the first 4 games of the season. They went 1-3, even if it's not how I imagined it going in my head. Whatever. So they take the week 5 bye. Fresh start, reset. Okay, everybody, you're at home. You're maybe not completely healthy, but you're healthy enough. The Colts are certainly not as healthy as you are, at least not on paper, and you have the opportunity to win an AFC South game and send these clowns down 0-3 in the division. They haven't won a divisional game yet. This was their first divisional win. Okay, let me see them. Prove something to me today to give me, the audience, the fans, the organization, whomever is in charge of decision making, and I can't imagine what Amy Adams Strunk thinks right now. Give me something. Give any of us something to think that you're capable of doing more. And instead, they just continue to prove everybody who thought they were less than right. And they're proving themselves to be less than I even imagined they would be. I thought 6.5 wins on the season, which was the Vegas win total at the start of the year, was easy money. Hammer the over. I didn't go crazy. I went 7-10 when we did our Titan season predictions, but this is shambles. This is nonsense. 8 targets for Calvin Ridley, and you can't catch a pass? You can't get him one pass? You wait till the fourth quarter to go crazy, and that's when you choose to get your $92 million man involved. And I don't even, I don't bring up the money to shave Calvin Ridley. If anything, I'm on Calvin Ridley's side here. This is mismanagement from top to bottom. This is Brian Callahan not proving himself to be up to this job just yet. This is Rand Carthon looking a hell of a lot more, we'll just say, mortal as a personnel decision maker than any of you probably thought when the honeymoon phase of the offseason was going on and you're spending the money that you're spending. This is Will Levis continuing to prove that he is not the right person to be the quarterback of this franchise moving forward. He continues to work in the wrong direction. And Levis, again, wasn't their biggest issue today. I thought that there was plenty of stuff from Levis that was fine. There was plenty of stuff from Levis that was manageable. But you know what he didn't do that he was doing last year? He didn't elevate his team. They seem hindered from both a coaching perspective, a quarterback perspective, and then when they need something else to happen, they just can't catch the breaks that they need to get to be able to live viably in this NFL. This is a team that cannot get right, cannot win for losing. And the problem is you are left, honestly, with more questions now than I had in week 1 against the Chicago Bears. Did they make the right decision in paying Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry and locking themselves into contracts for the long term? These are long-term contracts. These are real guaranteed money contracts. I mentioned on Twitter today the idea earlier of selling assets, and then somebody tweeted me and said, well, just blow the whole thing up. And I responded in kind to say, well, you can't blow this thing up. Did you not see how many long-term contracts you gave out? And then other people responded to me, well, you're flip-flopping. You just said sell assets. No. Who is considering Calvin Ridley's contract an asset? You overpaid him, remember? You gave him that guaranteed money. The Chiefs were not actively looking to get rid of L'Jarius Sneed, but they looked around at L'Jarius Sneed. They saw the price point that was going around. They said, can Steve Spagnuolo figure it out well enough with guys who aren't L'Jarius Sneed? Maybe some games not, but for the most part, yeah, we've got enough horses on defense. We can get this done, sell this thing off to the Titans, let them pay him, and we'll let, the rest of the whatever may come. We've gotten the best years out of L'Jarius Sneed, or we've gotten some of the best years out of L'Jarius Sneed. I don't think that he's washed as a football player or anything like that. But now you're the person paying for anything that is less than all-pro caliber corner play, and he's not been an all-pro caliber corner. Like, this is why teams who try to build through free agency fall flat on their face more often than not. And again, they had to spend the money somewhere. Their roster was dog shit before they spent the money. But the problem is all the different things that they've gone out to acquire, all the different Christmas presents that you thought you were unwrapping on the tree. They're not a football team yet. They're just a bunch of players. They're just a bunch of players and people out there. They're not cohesive. They're not working collectively as a unit. And thus they are 1-4 and there is a very easy world to imagine where this team doesn't have a win on the season if the Dolphins are even a fraction of what the Dolphins are supposed to be if Tua doesn't get hurt. But of course, they played Tyler Huntley. And again, no win in the NFL is hollow when these wins are so hard to come by. But if you had to pick a win that looks kind of hollow, it would be that Dolphins game. Pollard is a good signing. Tony Pollard is the best right now. He's the most consistent offensive player. And DeAndre Hopkins, I think, would be their best playmaker. But it's been a struggle to get the passing game involved. There is so many different ways to look at this. So who do you blame the most? We'll get to Calvin Ridley here in just a second. And I don't blame Calvin Ridley. In fact, I am team Calvin Ridley, and I'll explain to you why here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. Whether you're betting Sunday Night Football tonight, Monday Night Football tomorrow, college football electric over the weekend, you've got hockey back, you've got postseason baseball, you have basketball coming up here in just a few short days. Zen Sports, promo code ATOZTN, the best place to get in on the action. Bet $100 on your no danger first wager, and you will be rewarded with that promo code ATOZTN. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. So, whose direction do you point the blame in most? Calvin Ridley is not pointing fingers. This is as close as it comes to pointing figures, or pointing fingers, not pointing figures. The only figure that matters for Calvin Ridley is 8 and 0. Two figures that matter for Calvin Ridley. 8 targets, 0 receptions. Calvin Ridley was asked by Sam Phelan, why?
This offense a priority today, and to kind of not have it result in any catches, I guess what was kind of off that resulted in targets but no catches?
I had targets in what part of the game I had targets?
Fourth quarter, a lot of them.
All right, then. So, I need some in the beginning of the fucking game, too, then. Like, shit's getting fucking crazy for me. So, I'm just, it is what it is. But I suck today. I got to be better. But I got to get the ball a little early in the game so I can be in the game and here with the team so I can play well also.
Did you expect to get targets early? Just kind of
I don't know. We just, we trying to win the games. But
Callahan brought up it is frustrating because you guys get in a groove and then you stall. You get in a groove and you stall. I mean, how important is it for you guys to kind of find that consistency?
Just got to keep moving the ball. All 11 players move the ball to try to score it.
How frustrating was this kind of performance for you, especially maybe not getting incorporated like you said you wanted to at the beginning?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Last couple weeks been frustrating. Got to get better.
Did the game plan lack aggression? I mean, there were a lot of screens on this one.
Pretty good game plan. We just got to execute it better.
Are you a vocal guy when you have maybe frustrations or like the fact that you want the ball earlier? Do you say something in the game or do you kind of leave that for the week of practice?
Yeah, I guess for the week of practice.
Did you feel out of rhythm, or was it just the fourth quarter was late, like you were talking about getting in rhythm early?
I don't know, man. It's just been a little weird. You got to figure it out.
When did the weirdness start, do you feel like?
When did I get the ball?
I was asking if it started before today.
No, I'm just saying. When did I get it?
Last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess?
I'm just saying. I just got to be better and be better.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
So that is Calvin Ridley in the locker room earlier today. Calvin Ridley was gone by the time I got to the locker room, so Sam and I will split up the responsibilities sometimes because, some dudes get out of the locker room quicker than others, so they're tough to catch, especially lately because they lose a lot. And when guys lose, they don't want to hang around the locker room and answer questions. So I stayed in there for Will Levis in his press conference. Sam went and grabbed that answer from Calvin Ridley, and that ended up being about as telling an answer as you could have right now. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by the wonderful people at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress. Don't sell without the intel that the Ashton team can provide to you. The official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. By the way, Preds 0-2. I mean, backup goaltender for the Preds just continues to hemorrhage, and they could not score in Detroit. They lost 3-0 after dropping the home opener. Somebody, thank God for Vanderbilt. I mean, and barely Tennessee. Tennessee beating a bad Florida team. What the hell is going on with the local sports team? This is unacceptable. Unacceptable at this point. I'm pissed on behalf of you all, I swear. But Calvin Ridley's right. Calvin Ridley's right. It's like they don't trust themselves to use all the different pieces and parts that they spent money on this offseason. And then when they get in desperation mode, then that's where the that's where the desperate Calvin Ridley targets come from. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. That to me, and listen, can Calvin Ridley be more consistent as a receiver? Yes. Could Calvin Ridley have caught some of those 8 targets? Yes. I don't know what he's going to officially be graded on in terms of drops. We'll look for the Pro Football Reference or Pro Football Focus numbers tomorrow to see how that comes back. We'll ask the coaching staff on Monday as well to see how many drops they grade him with. But Calvin Ridley can do more. Calvin Ridley is capable of doing more. You have to get him involved earlier. He does need to catch the damn ball. There are passes that Calvin Ridley absolutely has to come down with. And some of those passes he did not come down with today. So he's not excused entirely. And he even himself said after he talked about needing to get more targets early, he said, I sucked today. And said all the things that you typically say. But the stuff that bubbled to the surface was, yeah, man, I got to get involved earlier. Now, every receiver thinks they need to get involved earlier. But it's not just Calvin Ridley. Chigakonkwo and Josh Wiley can get involved earlier. Tyler Boyd can get involved earlier. DeAndre Hopkins can get involved earlier. And I'm seeing them throw passes on third downs short of the sticks and trying to rely on yards after the catch to make it happen. That's a terrible Daniel Jones interception, it looks like, in this Giants-Bengals game. Just unbelievable. The Bengals are not going to, we'll see. It's early on in this game. But it does not seem like the Bengals are content to be 1-4 on the year the way that the Titans currently are. Not that the Titans are content. You can clearly hear Calvin Ridley not content with the situation. It is the job of the receiver to demand the ball. It is the job of the receiver to feel that he is confident in his ability to make plays, and they are not getting him involved consistently enough. There's no rhythm to this offense. I don't think it's all on Will Levis. I do think some of it is on Will Levis. I also think the coaching staff is not doing a good enough job. I am not qualified to criticize play calling. You are not qualified to criticize play calling. And I don't say that as an attack on you. I don't say that as an indictment of me. I just am saying that the thing that people are quickest to jump on, that they have the least understanding about, is one, offensive line play, but two, play calling. Those two things are very, very difficult, even not difficult, but very, very detailed in ways that I think a lot of the criticism can ignore. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Callahan just needs to call better plays, call better plays, call more touchdown plays. You know, that nonsense, right? But they're not doing a good enough job making this thing look like a functioning NFL offense. That we are qualified to determine. We see that there is no continuity to this group, that there is no identity to this group other than Tony Pollard. And when Tony can't literally carry the ball on every play for 4 yards a clip, then they don't seem like they have a plan other than screens to the flat and then occasionally a pop pass to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine because, screen pass. Oh, quick, look, Nick. And he catches it because that's all Nick Westbrook-Ikhine does. And by the way, another indictment of the coaching staff, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine having his first target on the year, and that first target of the year being a touchdown reception, criminal. Get Traylon Burks off the field. Get NWI more involved. Keep it simple, stupid, and try and be better as a coaching staff with the things that you are trying to educate them on. And if you cannot get through to this roster, they are going to find somebody else to do your jobs. It's not like Brian Callahan is going to get fired after 1 year or in season. It would take Urban Meyer levels of disaster, Bobby Petrino levels of disaster for Brian Callahan to not at least see his second season under contract as a first-year head coach. But they are sinking. They are a sinking ship, and they are not bailing water out fast enough. And it feels like more people are taking on as much water as they're trying to bail out of the ship as it goes under, with 8 targets and no receptions for Calvin Ridley. It's terrible. It's terrible. Amber Skinner says, Buck, they can't do a lot of plays. They don't trust Levis. What happened? What happened with Will Levis between this year and last year? Can somebody please tell me? Because there are mechanically things he's better at, sure, but like the mechanics aren't helping him play quarterback right now. They're not allowing him to play with as much ease, to be as dynamic, to make as many plays. He's not elevating his teammates anymore. That's something that changed from 1 year to the next. It's not like, we're not all stupid, okay? There was reason for Will Levis to look like an ascending property. There was reason to believe that better, more tailored quarterback coaching would benefit this player. And yet the dividends of that remain to be seen because he's farting out what is this performance again from a box score standpoint? And again, Will Levis box score, not the most important thing, but 16 of 27, 95 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He's a less dynamic player. And I don't know if this is like a part of the growing pains that he needs to achieve a different level of quarterback play. Like I don't think he's a finished product just yet, but he's worse. How am I to wrap my head around the idea that Will Levis looks like a worse quarterback in 2024 with more things around him than he did in 2023? Was it just so bad around him in 2023 that I fooled myself into thinking that Will Levis could be something? Maybe. It's possible. It's easy to look for the bright spots when the bright spots in a situation where the rest of the surroundings are shit. But this is not the same quarterback. This is not the same playmaker. This is not the same ascending talent that we have seen. And whether he's being restricted by himself and his mental, whether he's being restricted by his coaching staff because they don't trust him, they don't trust the variance, they're not allowing him to play freely, somebody better figure this shit out. Because people are going to get fired over it. Whether it's Levis, whether it's Carthon, whether it's Callahan, and whatever timeline any of those respective firings end up being. Because I'll tell you right now, none of these people are seeing the opening of the new stadium if this continues. I mean, God help them for trying to sell you guys season tickets on the hope and the promise and the social media marketing of this particular football team, all for it to just fall flat on its face. It's crazy. It's crazy how bad the product has been, even if you had reasonable expectations. I still think 7-10 is a reasonable expectation. I do think that some of this stuff can get better, even if it feels shitty right now. But they're objectively a bad football team right now. They're bad. They are one of the worst teams in professional football. And whether or not you were justified in thinking that just because you spent money, you should be more competitive out of the gates, I don't think that you were unjustified in that thinking. I think you should hold them to a higher standard, especially given that Derrick Henry is he's an MVP candidate. Derrick Henry looks phenomenal. And this team this version of the organization, not Vrabel, but this version of the organization couldn't wait to get rid of Derrick Henry. And Tony Pollard is not the problem. Tony Pollard is about their only saving grace as an offense at this point. J.C. Latham is about their only saving grace as an offense at this point. But you mean to tell me that you couldn't figure it out around Derrick Henry? It's madness to me. Absolute madness to me. And I know that Will Levis is not Lamar Jackson, and Derrick directly benefits from having Lamar Jackson, a dynamic quarterback that you also have to fear and respect. But it's messy. I mean, it's messy. There's no justification for how this football team looks right now. It is not too soon to hit the panic button. Today determined whether the panic button needed to be unsheathed and smashed or not. And it's time to panic about the trajectory of this organization. Quarterback, coach, general manager, top down. If you want to blame ownership, I mean, I don't know what else she could do. She gave them all the money to spend. They spent it, and it looks like shit. So I mean, it's tough for me to pin it on Amy Adams Strunk, but she, it's her organization. You can hold her accountable if you want to. Again, blame on all sides. Blame for everybody. You get some blame. It's the Oprah Winfrey gift. You get a car. Instead of a car, it's blame. Blame. It's the Game of Thrones walk of atonement. We need a cistern, or not a cistern, a sister, a nun. Whatever they are, whatever the religion in Game of Thrones is, waving the bell or shaking the bell. Shame, 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 shame on everybody involved. This is dog shit. It's not acceptable. And they've already given you guys reason to do something else with your Sundays. This was a perfect day to watch football. And, the attendance was solid. It wasn't great, but it was solid. And by the time that game was waning in, the final 5 to 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, Titans fans had checked out. They said, okay, there's still plenty of my Sunday left. I'll go enjoy it. It's a beautiful day in Middle Tennessee. I'll go read a book. I'll go sit on the porch and drink a coffee, whatever. I'll do something other than this. Oof. It's really bad. So there's other things to talk about here. We've got 3 hours of radio tomorrow to dive more deeply in, because Rand Carthon in this is an interesting figure, because the team that he has assembled is a shit show, and the coaching staff that they so meticulously picked out is, at least on the offensive side of the ball, a failure. I don't. It's not just about Rand, right? Like it's all of them. It's all of them. This is a failure. This is an abject failure. And I hate that I'm going to probably have to talk about draft in the second week of October tomorrow morning. Mock draft Monday. Can't wait. Ugh, gross. Anyway, enough of the bad vibes. Sunday fun day. I'm going to make you smile. I'm going to try and make you smile. I don't know if I can make you smile, but I'll do my best. What is the best thing that you saw on this football Sunday? It was probably not the Titans. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Maybe it's Leroy Watson. Leroy Watson played better than NPF. Maybe you're excited about that. Maybe that's some small semblance of positivity. Maybe you're happy with largely the performance of the defense, because I thought the defense, save Snead, had a pretty good day today. There are things about this football team that can give you confidence, but it is tough to see the forest through the trees at this point, with everything that's going on that has you at 1-4 and the bad juju. Maybe you want to look somewhere else. Maybe you want to talk about Vanderbilt. Just awesome out there. Kentucky gave the game away, sure, but Vanderbilt won the game as well on the road. They have what, Ball State this weekend? That's a game that they should win. They can't have another Georgia State situation before they host Texas. That's an exciting game. Vanderbilt football is more relevant than Titans football right now in the local sports scene. It's crazy. It's crazy. Maybe you're a Tennessee fan and you saw them beat Florida and it was ugly and it was gross, and maybe you have questions about Josh Heupel and conservatism. There's a lot of parallels here between Titans and Colts, or Titans and Vols right now, that have you feeling a bit shaky, but you're not dead. You beat Florida, you've got Alabama, you've got another opportunity to get better. Maybe that is the best thing you saw from your sports weekend. But for me, it was Penei Sewell almost catching a touchdown. We were robbed of 6 points. We should have seen one of the most spectacular plays ever scored by a player over 300-plus pounds. So I guess there's no audio with this, but this is from the Cowboys' absolute ass-kicking of the Lions. It was a bloodbath, 47-9, and they don't, I guess that highlight, here's the full highlight. I didn't start it from the beginning. You see Goff there. He flips it to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who laterals it back to Penei Sewell. There are flags on the field. Penei Sewell is probably down before he scored the touchdown, but this was an insane play to watch play itself out. Yeah, definitely would have been down, but still really fun to see a big man getting involved. Lions offensive lineman caught a touchdown reception. Anyway, the best part of it all, on Jerry Jones's birthday, the Cowboys got savaged. It's pretty crazy. 1-6, says Bob O'Benson, or Bab O'Benson on YouTube, talking about the Titans. 1-6 for the Titans, Buffalo, and Detroit next. Football's weird. Weird shit can happen. Bad teams beat good teams all the time. Josh Allen is not playing very good football right now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he gifts you one, but these are 2 games on the road that are going to be really, really tough. 0-3 at home. Oh, no, we're doing Sunday Fun Day. This is supposed to be positive stuff. You guys got me talking about the fact that the Titans can't win at home. They're 0-3 at home. I mean, it's not like, again, the Miami win just seems like the one win that they have seems like such a fraud because of what that team looked like when they beat them. But oof, taking years off my life. Anyway, big man touchdown, almost big man touchdown. We did get a big man touchdown from that game, but that was my Sunday Fun Day. Radio show tomorrow. We're going to have a lot more to talk about. We're going to have a lot more to say. I'm going to have a chance to fully peel back through this game. I'm going to have a chance to fully reevaluate how much guaranteed money this team handed out in the offseason and how much that, what kind of performance you are getting relative for that guaranteed money that was spent. I am going to talk about Brian Callahan and whether or not through 5 games it feels like they made the right decision on a coach, whether that was the firing of a coach or the hiring of a coach or all of it. If all of this in the offseason that was sold to you with bright lights and pretty packaging and lovely trim and ribbons and all of it, if all of this is just, if it's nothing, if it's the prettiest box in the world and you open up the box and there's nothing in the box, like there's nothing of substance here. This is not a football team, at least not yet. I mean, it is a football team, but it's not a football team. All right. I'm exhausted. This is the first time that I got a headache from a Titans game. I got a headache from this game today, which, maybe it's between, at some point, this is a bit morbid, but at some point a tumor in my head is going to get me, whether it's an iPhone-sized tumor from how much time this thing is spent held to my ear, or if it's a flaming thumbtack logo-looking tumor that eventually does me in the back of my brain. I feel it pulsating right now. It's like that Family Guy episode where it's Peter's got the tumor and it's dancing around and it's, I'm a tumor. This is, again, morbid. I say this all in jest. Please, nothing's happening. I'm well. I should probably go see a doctor. Just now before I'm making jokes about this. I'm going to make it. I swear to God. All of this is said tongue-in-cheek. But, yes, they are slowly killing me. I'm kidding. It's all good. I mean, it really is all good. Like, it's not the end of the world. It is time to panic. They do have legitimate problems. The problems are worse than you thought they should have been. So, we'll work our way through it. But nothing you can do to turn back the clock now. All you can do is look how to get better. And that's the approach that this football team is going to have to take, because nobody's coming to save them. I know they've said that plenty, but then not even the bye week is coming to save them, because they've already worked their way through that in week 5. That's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out. 10 to 1 on the radio show tomorrow morning. We will continue your therapy session. Until then, be safe, sleep well. Whatever you got to do to get your moment of zen. See you guys.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!